final setups before we are ready to go after the lunch break. Welcome back to both the on-site audience and those online. For the afternoon, we have the second panel session, Market Coupling for a Sustainable Future, examined from stakeholders' perspective. And I would like now to give the floor to the moderator of the panel, Michaela.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome back. I hope you enjoy your lunch break. So, this afternoon, we are going to talk about sustainability and taking a leaf from Mr. Casares' key speech earlier on this morning, we would like to discuss sustainability in its broader sense. And so to do that, we have 6 extremely well-qualified market participants that represent, on the one hand, market participants. And sorry, I meant to say we have extremely qualified panelists who represent, on the one hand, market participants, NEMOs, and then European institutions, the Commission, and the energy community parties. So the theme today is, bear in mind that sustainability, as you know, has got many meanings, means different things to all of us. The theme is, what is sustainability for each of your respective organizations, and how does market coupling enable you to meet your sustainability goals? So we'll give about 5 minutes to each of the participants and ask them to just give it a free rein. So we have, in order of seat, we have Jérôme Lepage from ETE, we have Max from Eurelectric, Zeli from MCCG coordinators, also market participants, Cosimo Campidoglio, NEMO committee, Yasmina Trullo, energy community, and last but not least, Andra Schubert, European Commission. So each of you, please go ahead, 5 minutes each. I've got a stopwatch.
I don't know if people hear properly. Yes? Yeah, it looks like there's a bit of an echo. That's perfect. Thank you very much. I'm jumping here a little bit as my colleague Lorenzo Biglia, who was supposed to be here with us today, couldn't make it today. So what is sustainability from the point of view of Energy Traders Europe? I look at this, like I try to think about it at a personal level. I've worked in sustainable finance before, and we always had this approach to the ESG concept, like environmental, social, and governance. But like trying to think about that from a wider perspective, there's really something around sustainability, which is like, how do we make something future-proof? And environmental, social, and governance aspects of it are just like the tools to get there, and to get to something that survives in the future. I think from that perspective, where markets, energy market and electricity markets in particular, can survive the future, is to make sure that they're secure, that they continue to be innovative all the time, that they integrate the new flexibilities that are out there for our potential, that they stick with the sense of time and the sense of politics as well, where we are at this moment. So it's a lot to ask for from a pure mechanism of optimization that is market coupling. And we see that a little bit in how, especially in the proposal for CACM reform, there's the idea that we should try to make sure that market coupling ensures the different goals that are set for our energy policy, the security of supply, the sustainability, and the affordability. And the question there is, like, is this tool, is market coupling really supposed to optimize all this? Or is it naturally trying to optimize whatever framework we have as a policy? And from my perspective, what market coupling is doing already is optimizing the different goals that we have and that are set in our energy policy, but not necessarily like purely as a functioning of the electricity market. Take sustainability, for instance. We have another market on the side, which is called the ETS, that we don't talk about a lot here, but is a truly European market that is like functioning around trying to put a price on carbon. This is something that is integrated in the cost of electricity that is traded through market coupling and is optimized there. Security of supply or system security. Market coupling takes into account the capacity calculation that is provided by the TSO. And especially with flow-based market coupling, like the flow-based calculation does make sure that our system is secure. So the question there is really like, do we want to add criteria? Do we want to add more constraint to the market coupling? Or do we think actually market coupling is already optimizing those things? And affordability, I think the beauty of market coupling is it always tries to seek the cheapest possible solution bearing the constraint that have been put on it. So in terms of like trying to reach the cheapest meeting of demand and supply, that we are there today already. So in terms of trying to meet the trilemma, market coupling is already there to do the job and is doing the job well. Question mark whether it's future-proof, and I'm sure we'll discuss that around like how do we make sure that it continues to be there to integrate renewables and new flexibility as best as it can, to make sure that our future, which includes more and more of our neighbors, so including energy community contracting parties, but also our neighbors in the UK, our neighbors in Switzerland, et cetera, and beyond, like how does it work all that together? And I'm sure other panelists will contribute to that.
So thank you, Jérôme. I might pick up on a few things you said later. So Max, from a Eurelectric perspective, what are your views?
Yes, thank you, Michaela, for inviting Eurelectric. So we represent more the asset operators in the electricity market. And for us, we can achieve sustainability if we continue to decarbonize by replacing demand for fossil energy by clean electricity. And I think the European Commission has had the same strategy outlined in its impact assessment for 2040 targets. And we have made quite some progress already on that front. Since 2020, we have increased generation capacity by 20%, with wind and solar now topping installed capacity. But of course, if we want to reach the targets in the European climate law by 2030, we will need to be double as fast, so more than 100 gigawatts installed every year. Then, of course, we also need to decarbonize our energy demand. And we think that the decarbonization bank that the Commission has proposed is a good step in that direction. Now, of course, with more weather-dependent generation, there will be more challenges for utilities to recover their initial capital costs, and we need to make sure that the transition remains investable for utilities. And here, I can't overstate the role of markets. We would not be able to make this efficient without cross-border exchanges. It's important that we can export from surplus regions to deficit regions, because otherwise we'll see more negative prices, more volatility, and a worse business case for capacity additions. So that brings me then to the second part of your question. I've twisted it a bit, so how can we improve market coupling to in the spirit of sustainability? And here for utilities, we look at market coupling as the engine of the electricity system. We want to understand how this engine works. We want to have a fix when it's not working, and we want to be able to optimize its real work. So first on transparency. That's important for market participants because it fosters trust and investments. So therefore, we are happy to see that the new CACM draft improves transparency, and we would like to see more transparency on capacity calculation inputs, on market results, prices, and also on constraints that TSOs are applying to cross-zonal capacity. Second point, the fallbacks. We've seen it last summer. Decouplings are expensive, not only because of the skewed order books, which cause foregone revenues, but also because you may have an inconsistency with some forward contracts if the reference price is not the same anymore. Therefore, we would like to see some change there, and rather sooner than later. We have made some proposals there, and for example, if you look at the local auction that took place last year, this would now presumably be illegal. However, we do not have a solution yet that is uniformly implemented across the NEMO. So, of course, that creates some uncertainty for market participants. And then third and last, we can't really afford uncertainty about the target model, and for us that means decentralized dispatch, portfolio-based bidding, and complex products to optimize our asset bases. We do welcome that there are changes now to the trade to how we trade, with trading more close to closer gate closure time, with more granular products. And of course that's good because it allows us to adjust market realities with the physical assets that the utilities operate. But however, if some changes will overburden the algorithm, if they will challenge our processes too much, or challenge our reference markets the day ahead and the intraday continuous, then we are a bit more skeptical, and that's why co-optimization maybe is a bit more problematic with that regard. So 3 points: transparency, fallbacks, and finally our target model. And that would be it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Max. There is a lot to unpick here. I guess the NEMOs will need to come up and meet your electric to unpick a bit all of these details. And actually, building on this, Sally, you represent all market participants in the market coupling consultative group. So I guess you represent not only the producers, but also the demand. So can you give us a bit of a broader perspective from the broader market participants community?
I don't know. Does it work? Yeah, perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invite. I'm very happy to be here. So I wanted to start actually by saying that, of course, we can all agree that market coupling is a cornerstone of European energy integration. It has been instrumental in facilitating the absorption of large volumes of renewables into the power system. And power flows across border can help with large swings in production by intermittent RES capacity. Yet, and this is a bit the topic as well, as we broaden our understanding of sustainability, we must recognize that it's not only about reducing carbon emission or maximizing renewable energy integration. So a truly system also encompasses the resilience of supply chains, social welfare, and the robustness of our system against unforeseen events. So now talking about industry, it's only in this way that the industry can be given the confidence to electrify, which is, of course, a crucial step to the decarbonization. So I'm just going to highlight that recent incidents we faces actually highlighted challenges. So we had the decoupling event of June last year that exposed vulnerability in market coupling in our system and to some extent in the market design. There was also the Iberian blackout several months ago that demonstrated that challenges can also occur within individual member states. So these events serve as a reminder that to have an electricity system that is truly sustainable, it demands continuous improvement and vigilance. So from a stakeholder perspective, all these factors influence corporate objectives. So market participants must balance profitability with the need of innovation, with societal responsibilities regarding the environment and climate, but also a secure supply of electricity, which in today's society is a basic need, of course. So as the system complexity grows, so does the need to collaborate. So further integrating renewables introduces new complexity, being technical, operational, and regulatory. And that required nuanced solutions and a willingness to trust the expertise of those closest to the assets and the technologies in place. So this knowledge and technology insight reside also to a large degree with market participants that I'm representing today, of course. So making their engagement in dialogue and decision-making essential. So our initiative should be grounded in constructive collaboration, which would be enabling market design to adapt effectively as new challenges and opportunity arise, so for a sustainable and future-proof future. So I'm just going to go quickly about how to address these challenges with, let's say, 4 actions. So the first one would be to strengthen mechanism for stakeholder engagement, so providing a platform where expertise can be shared transparently and constructively. We, of course, welcome the efforts that are already being made with the MCCG, so Market Coupling Consultative Group, so where experts can exchange and provide feedback on grounded experience. But we want even more. On the second point, on project implementation, we think that should be also conducted in constant and close dialogue with all involved stakeholders. That means market participants. And as market participants, we sometimes feel like we are only looking into the implementation room through a small and tinted window instead of being at the table. So we want our seat at the table. And on the third point, we need investment in digital infrastructure and system monitoring, and that would be critical. So this investment needs to be done by everybody for the full benefits to be reaped. So here we need also a clear and stable framework so that we all know where we are going, and preferably in the same direction. And finally, fourth and finally, lesson learned from incidents should drive continual improvement. When errors and failure happen, they should be thoroughly investigated and communicated. This is not only to identify the responsible party, but to learn from those incidents and seek for improvements. That's it, thanks.
Thank you very much, Zeli. Now, Cosimo, at the risk of putting you on the spot, I would ask you to wait a little bit. What I heard so far is that market coupling is being stretched in all directions. I listed only a few, and I have transparency, predictability, technical challenges, and robustness. They need to invest, including digital infrastructure, and meet the decarbonization targets, including the link to the ETS. So these are just some of the things. So I would suggest, to make your job easier, that we listen also to Yasmina and Andras, see what they have to bring to the table. What else can market coupling do for them? And after you listen to them, you come back and give us... Exactly. What do you think? Yeah?
I surrender.
Yasmina and Andras, would you like to go next? Or you choose, yeah.
I see that Andras is already positioning a microphone towards me. I would like, despite that I know we have only 5 minutes, but I would still like to use a minute to thank to the NEMO committee for inviting the energy community and also for supporting continuously and in a very productive and structured manner the process of integrating energy community contracting parties, and that's really much appreciated in our community. So to come back to your questions, your first question was what sustainability means for our company. So my company is Energy Community Secretariat, and I have to say that our purpose is not to be sustainable. So because our purpose is to actually bring energy community contracting parties closer to the European Union and eventually to integrate them. So, which means that then we would not have any purpose. So, so this is what we are working on, being jobless. But in the meantime, we have a lot of work because in order for our contracting parties to get to that point, they need the sustainable energy systems, and that means really that we have to make progress on many elements in that respect. And I would maybe firstly like to touch upon on the environmental sustainability, because energy community region was for decades famous for kind of black fossil fuel coal production. But I have to say that we are really on a good track on this matter. And very soon, in the coming days, you will see our new CBAM tracker, but maybe just a sneak peek of some information would be good, that we are really moving fast in decarbonizing, and it's not anymore that we are fossil fuel dominant production region. Now we are 50% from renewables, and from coal we have decreased only in the last year over 10% our carbon intensity. Still, of course, double than the in EU, which means we need still a way to go. We are somehow just halfway through. And we are moving, but we want to, as I heard today Matja saying, fast and far. We want to move fast and far and in a very cost-efficient manner, because this matters a lot for our contracting parties. And this is exactly the point where we see a huge importance of integrating our contracting parties, not only market integration, but also deep system integration, because we are indeed already infrastructurally very well interconnected with the EU, but we need to strengthen this market integration, and this is where we see, as a first instance, they had an intraday coupling, because we want to, in order to decarbonize, in order to bring more renewables, we need attractive markets. And market attractiveness can only come through the full market integration with the European Union. And this is something where we have already established a process. There are very clear tasks that each party has to do under the electricity integration package. I believe that so far everyone is working on delivering. Not everything is, of course, on time, and we are seeing delays in the transposition, but contracting parties started to adopt their legislation. We also have a very clear guidance from the European Commission on how their compliance will be verified. And this is from the contracting party side, what they have to deliver, and the Energy Community Secretariat and the Commission. And on the NEMO side, we are waiting to receive, actually to see new version of MCO integration plan, which is one of the key documents to move on with the market coupling. So this is how we got to the market coupling, starting from the sustainability, but we really see this as a crucial step. And maybe last but not the least point is CBAM regulation, that now we are really counting down to 1st of January 26, when it will be fully applied. And as you all know, none of the contracting parties will manage to get the exemption. So CBAM regulation will apply, according to our current understanding, will start to apply as of 1st of January. And what is very important for us is that because we have a lot of concerns on how this will impact market integration, market attractiveness, also because we are in the NEMO conference, it's very important to say also how it will affect businesses, including NEMO business, because power exchanges were established in our region in order to allow for the market integration. If we will too long wait for this market integration, also their sustainability will probably be affected. So these are all some concerns that we have, but we hope that we are on the good track.
Well, best of luck. I know that a lot of progress has been made, especially over the summer. And bear in mind that you have the best job description I heard in a long time. I would like to pass on the floor to Andras. Andras, from a Commission perspective, what does this huge new enlargement mean for you, and how do you think things should move forward? What do you have to tell us?
So thanks for the invitation. I came here to resonate a bit on market coupling and the energy community process, and sitting at the end of the queue, it was also great. That allows me to reflect on what we heard. I think beyond all the goodies that market coupling can deliver, and you alluded to the famous triangle. This is, of course, also very much true for the energy community region, which is consisting of very small entities when compared with an average-sized country in Europe, that in themselves would have big difficulties to maintain competitive markets and reflective prices. And this is where, of course, technically the market coupling is also very important, maybe more important for them than for other regions. The market coupling, beyond all these policy objectives that we want to deliver with and have successfully delivered in Europe with market coupling, the energy community here is also consisting of countries that have all perspective, or actually candidate countries to the EU. So integrating them and making them applying EU law will anyway be something which they soon will have to do in all policy areas, not just of course energy. So here we are advancing faster, although we have suffered delays when compared with what we thought the energy community would need in terms of time to couple. I think by now we thought at some point when the pieces of legislation were brought into the energy community around market integration, market coupling, people thought that these countries will be joining the market coupling process by now, basically. Yeah? This will not happen. We have suffered delays which are partially inherent, I think, into the energy community countries. They have difficulties too. There's lots of political difficulties, not just technical difficulties, which we continue facing. But as Yasmina told us, and of course with the great help of the energy community, there has been advancement, serious advancement. There are countries who are now very close to basically enact all the necessary pieces of legislation so that they can transfer slowly into the technical process of coupling. I think maybe two more points that come to my mind. So it's given the region and given these manifold countries in the energy community, it's important that the process accommodates these different levels of readiness. I think at some point, many of us had thought, or not, that these countries will prepare all their legislation at once and they're just going to join in one. I think this is not going to happen. They're going to couple in bits. Yeah? We will see who will be, or which borders will be ready at first, and they will need to be given the permission, the opportunity to couple, and then other borders will come after. I think this is how it was. This is how it happened in Europe, and this is also how it, I think, going to happen in the energy community. So it's important that our procedures accommodate this. And this is also maybe important to make a point about CBAM, because the recognition is there that applying CBAM for electricity, because it applies also for other goods, for electricity, where markets are coupled, is not possible technically. So it's important that even if CBAM starts hitting, and from next year, I think there will be an important stage in applying CBAM. It's important that energy community countries and borders can continue their preparations and their market coupling arrangements. And then once they couple, there should also be a recognition there that then at that moment the CBAM application for electricity will not be there anymore, and then they can enjoy the benefits of market coupling. And I think they shouldn't be the delays that we have suffered here in the energy community should not prevent our contracting parties from coupling. So I think it's important to maintain the perspective and the strong engagement. And maybe on a more philosophical note at the end, I think beyond all the triangle, energy policy triangle outcomes that market coupling is supposed to underpin, there is also something embedded in the complexity of planning, but then also operating a market coupling. And maybe this complexity and the depths of the arrangements are as such that it also makes very difficult for governments to intervene and change prices, because governments want to intervene. They have intervened at different times in different parts of Europe. Energy community is also not without interventions, actually quite opposite. And there is many ways how one can intervene in redistributing rents between producers and consumers, or help certain groups of customers, which are legitimate ends. But these interventions, I think we would all agree, they shouldn't be on the level of price formation. And ever since market coupling is there, I think these interventions became increasingly difficult. And I'm sure that many of you experts were asked by your governments as to, what can we do in difficult times to help customers by rearranging prices. And I'm sure you have been trying to explain that this is impossible, because if we change our thing here, we will have not redistribution of capacities there, we won't have prices and all that. So I think it's an important element, and maybe it's not recognized very enough how much this complexity and the depth of the market arrangement that market coupling has brought to us made the price formation a bit external to policy and government. And that's, I think it's important, and as much as we can nurture this, the better we will be off, and then we can guide the political decision makers to intervene there where actually intervention is maybe justified. So, thanks.
Thank you, Andras. So this leaves us with Cosimo, who is in an unenviable position to try and basically reply to all this. So we heard an ever-increasing list of legal requirements, geopolitical imperatives, security of supply, needs of market participants, and the NEMOs are in the middle. So how can market participants, from a NEMO perspective, be, on the one hand, sustainable in the broader sense of its meaning and meet all these needs, and on the other hand, be functional and lean and robust? How do we meet all these sometimes contrasting objectives?
Thank you for the nice question. I will try to reply through further questions. I think there is quite a unique case of a very wide alignment. Before starting, I was taking my concepts here. Complexity. By sustainability, we mean being able to cope with complexity in a continuous way along the time, not through jumps. We cannot afford jumps. And which is complexity. The list you mentioned is basically my list here. This is the key. So it is, sustainability is not an environmental issue alone. That has been the source of discussing sustainability, but it is not all. Until now, when we refer to market coupling, everybody were referring basically to algorithms or to contracts, to technical solution. Today, I've been hearing a lot talking about framework. Market coupling is a framework. The technical market coupling is a part of a framework. CSM is a part of a framework. National regulations are part of the framework. So it is a wider concept, and which is the role of this framework to allow parties continuously find and adapt to their own needs via solutions. So to be able to adapt and evolve. In that sense, the complexity we saw has been initially addressed via more complexity, more sophisticated market design, algo trading, co-optimization, more complexity because the machine is the solution until we find out that the machine may have limit, but also more sophisticated machines are increasing the need for further complexity for market participants, for governments, in a sort of vicious circle. So the technical complexity is not the end of the story. That's our part of commitment to deliver up to the best level solution. But indeed, we need a proper framework. And the proper framework means not having, from outside the technical market coupling, so overall at the EU perspective, not having so many rules, but receiving framework, not having so detailed tools or means, but goals and objectives to reach in order to allow to find the most appropriate solution and the most appropriate timing for implementation via the interdependencies between the parties. So we have a very lively framework to cooperation between NEMOs, TSOs, and market participants, which found out solutions along the way. The more we go into nitty-gritty at a high level, medium level, and then low level of our technical solution, the more we spend enormous time to approve them. They are approved once they are already old, and they become enormously difficult then to be amended and updated. So, in my view, the answer to complexity is not always more complexity. And also the concept you mentioned, I think it was Jerome at the beginning, optimization. How much do we want to optimize and where? For example, now we have a lot of attention to optimize everything in SDAC. After a few minutes, everything is reshuffled in the following markets. When we optimize the last comma of welfare in SDAC, and then after a couple of hours, we change those variables, those scheduling of power plants, those flows, was that beneficial? The enormous effort to optimize in the head all details rather than leaving market parties to adapt in following markets. So there is a concept of trade-off between our goals and the cost of reaching those goals by the solution we decide, which is, for me, part of missing in the debate. And the more we start top-down with detailed rule, the more we ignore this trade-off. Trade-off can be assessed through the experience, so delivering and improving, and letting this improve. I think this is making much more easy for the machine of market coupling to evolve and to answer to the need of market participants and to reach targets, finding the proper way. And that allows also market participants to be more interactive in the process. Otherwise, we are all into the compliance. And in compliance, we have no degrees of freedom. No MCSE, no market participant, and even if things find out being more complex or less attractive than it was expected when they were conceived years ago, you have no more time to adapt.
Okay, so can I sum it up with go back, all of us, and think about the actual needs and bear in mind that we can't get everything we want and that there are trade-offs. And actually, on this note, I have an additional question just for the market participants and maybe for Yasmina, if you feel you want to answer it. Bearing in mind that not everything is possible, that you have your own needs, and there are technical limits, both technical and in terms of governance on the other side, if you had to pick one thing that you really like of market coupling, that you think market coupling has done for your stakeholders that you represent, and one thing that you think, well, that really needs improvement, what would it be? One and one. Jerome, would you like to start?
One thing that market coupling did,
or is doing,
but it's like has done and continues to do, allowing access of every market participant in Europe to the same market. We don't realize that enough we're all on the same market, like throughout Europe. And this is thanks to market coupling. So that's great. I propose we do a round, and I come back with the because the what is missing is almost bleak. So go ahead.
we leave the worst for last. Okay, please, Max.
So the part I like, right?
The part you
we
like.
I think that's the possibility to for market participants, for utilities to optimize the functioning of their asset bases with products, mandatory and optional products, and that's certainly something that they would like to keep. More complexity should not undermine that availability, because it's important for them to have, to use their assets in a good way.
So on what I like, what we like as market participants, I said it already, but is the involvement. The MCCG, for example, is a good best practice. We saw that we understand that, it's also something that the Commission agrees of, like collaboration with market participants. So we like that, and we encourage for further collaboration with market participants.
And Yasmina, do you think you want to take this as well?
But why not? Maybe just actually what Andras was mentioning about the energy community. This is small countries, and also with a lot of in transparency and market interventions, and we see a big benefit of market coupling exactly in bringing transparent prices and actually robust market signal.
I think we're doing well on the fundamentals, but now let's go to the flip side of the coin.
So maybe flip side of the coin, and going back to the question of sustainability. My question is so what's the plan for 2040? I know that's 15 years from now, but we see how policymakers are making plans for, we already have plans to 2050 in terms of climate target, but we're just discussing whether or not there should be more for 2040 as interim targets. And we see from the debate this morning how there are conflicts in terms of what's happening at the moment in terms of reform and everything. And for me, there's the question, Zeli mentioned a couple of times how stakeholder involvement is happening. I think what I'm missing is how do we think about the future together, but really all of us around the table, not all of us at different times around different tables. And when I say all of us, that's all of us around this table, the consumers, the citizens, and how do we think together about the model of the future. And very probably that's not the thing that we have now, because the system will have changed, will have technical improvements that we can't even think about at the moment. So yeah, and I'm missing so what's the plan for 2040? I'm exaggerating, I don't want it now, but what's the framework so that we think together about the plan of the future? That's what I want to see in our community around market coupling.
Point taken. And Max?
Yes, I think I'll just get back to the transparency. There might be good reasons to curtail cross-border capacity. There might be good reasons to tweak certain things in the capacity calculation. But if market participants are to keep their trust in the market outcome and to be able to forecast prices, then it's important for them to understand that, and therefore we would welcome open cards on those things.
So to jump in also a bit on transparency as well, and to be very also straight to the point, we would also encourage transparency and necessarily some maybe more thorough reports when incidents happened, and that you trust market participants to understand also what happened as well, because we can and we are really willing to do so. And I think sometimes we feel a bit like we're in a certain fog as market participants, and doesn't foster the right condition for a sustainable future, that doesn't foster the right condition for investment. So I think just transparency and communication, we need to improve there. Thanks.
Thank you. I think we have some very good homework from our market participants. I have then one last question. I guess we're running a bit over time, just for the second half of the panels. And I leave Cosimo last as usual. And from Andras to Yasmina to Cosimo, if you had one message for the audience that you would like them to remember at the end of today, what would it be? 30 seconds each.
Good. Maybe I'll come in with also with the previous round. Maybe I would say what I would like to continue is to maintain the openness of the TSO NEMO community to accommodate energy community members, also be forgiving in some ways with them, with the difficulties that they face, and make sure that once they are ready, they can couple as soon as possible. What I want to see less, and where I also know that I have little, or we have altogether little power over that, but it would be less politics involved in that. In the energy community is even more politics involved than elsewhere, and I think we have spent too much resources and effort in slowing down processes. I think we wasted too much time in trying to redefine capacity calculation regions and things like that, instead of using these energies for speeding up our joint efforts. I wish we had less of that and we could all work together towards this common goal.
And I would actually now using the opportunity of being in Brussels and also having representatives of European institutions, of NCOE, of ACER, of course, of Market Coupling Steering Committee, everyone, and the policymakers, I would like to actually ask for, as sustainability is the word of the panel, I would like to ask for the sustainable process of market integration of the energy community contracting parties, because all, let's say, ambiguities also on the legislative side are contributing to slowing down the process. So we like to have a very clear framework, even if it's a harder way, more complex, but that we know our way and we go towards reaching that goal. Thank you.
And I would say from our side, 2 points. As for the cooperation with market participants, MCCG has been, in our view, the first step in the good direction. We are open to improve it because we see the benefit for everybody in doing this. This is delivering benefit for everybody. Second point, in order for us to be able to make our solution sustainable for the system, we need to receive also a sustainable framework. We need more innovation and less re-regulation at high frequency. Otherwise, there is no time to coordinate, to develop, and to align with all parties.
Well, thank you very much. I think we have a lot of food for thought for everybody in the room here. Now I'm looking at Jokka to see if we still have time for some Q&As.
You do?
We do?
So questions are very welcome.
No? Well, if there are no questions, I would just like you to give a round of applause to our panelists. And thank you so much for your... Always makes up participants and panelists.
Next, I would like to give the floor to our Intraday Steering Committee Chair, Andrei Matza, for the key takeaways, and we'll be heading forward to the closing remarks.
So hello, dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's been a very interesting debate today. And this has been possible only thanks to you. So I would like to thank all the panelists, all the hosts, all the moderators, because we created very good environment to have a good debate around the table, but also potentially in the future. And the conference is only as good as the people in the room. And here I see some very good people. So thank you for that. Before we close and before we leave, I would like to pick up maybe 3-4 things from today that stuck in my mind. Firstly, we heard some very serious concerns. The concerns and worries about upcoming regulation. These changes can be possibly very dangerous, disruptive and inefficient. But also, some of them are quite needed. We heard about risk of the single MCO, about TSOs not liking the 70% intraday capacity, which may endanger the grid. Also about potential regulation of remedial action that may as well endanger the current situation. This may create a point of failure. And I think we are all here a little bit afraid of that possibility that one day either the market coupling or the grid will fail. We need to preserve what is good and what we have. But we are also afraid about losing the trust. I heard the word trust today several times. We built that trust over the last 10 years. It was not built from the very first day. I remember when we drafted, or when the CACM 1.0 was drafted, that we were also afraid, we were fighting, we were discussing, we were debating. And over the years, over the 10, 15 years, we built a trust in the market that can provide results on a daily basis for 10 years. And I also hear today some serious concerns, some concerns about NEMOs and TSOs being too slow, being not able to deliver what's needed. And there is certainly a room for improvement. These concerns are not taken lightly. We need to work further on, and we need to remove those concerns. To achieve that, I think we need a balanced dialogue. And the dialogue not only between NEMOs, Commission, Acer, TSOs, but also with all other stakeholders, the European Parliament, we heard today the citizens, the energy community, traders, everyone around the table. And then we learned about the markets, how they are behaving. And the markets over the past year, we learned 2024, behave pretty well. And we need to keep that in mind. But there is happening evolution also in trading, the trading itself. We see more frequent trading. We see more new trends, AI coming into operation, more automated trading. And we need to challenge that, and we need to evolve on that level to have a reliable and performing systems. And this is only done in past years due to the constant work of many of the colleagues who are not here today, but they work on a constant improvement, investments, testing, and putting new stuff into the production, which is sometimes quite forgotten, that we are achieving a lot by doing this work. And last but not least, we learned about reliability, transparency, robustness, sustainability, many shiny words that are actually putting a pressure on the market. Because we need that sustainable, transparent, efficient market in order to have efficient trading, to achieve decarbonization, and to extend beyond EU borders. We hear clear appetite for that. And this needs to be our priority. I mean, NEMO committee priority for upcoming years to come, to really safeguard the reliable markets. And before we close, I would like to encourage every one of you in this meeting room to keep the dialogue that we heard today active, because I think that with a good dialogue, we can secure the future that we need, maybe plan for next 15, 20 years even, but we can also preserve what is good, because we tend to forget, maybe with shiny ideas for the future, what good we have achieved. There is, I think it was a quote from Voltaire, maybe not, but maybe, hopefully yes, that better is the worst enemy of the good. And this is something we need to keep in mind. Not to chase some golden goose ahead of us, but really to think about market that we have. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when we were constructing CACM 1.0, we were in different situation. There were deharmonized, decoupled markets shattered all over the Europe with some couplings initiatives already happening. But it was a starting point where we could afford to risk a lot. But now we cannot afford that risk. One single day of decoupling would be disaster. We remember and we heard today what happened last year with a partial decoupling, and it was not a pleasant situation. Imagine that being one day of a full decoupling, and we need to keep that in mind. So before we close, I have maybe one joke connected to the regulation, whether we are regulated enough or not. You know, the 10 Commandments in Bible have 40 words. The US Constitution have roughly 4,000 to 5,000 words. The EU regulation on proper labeling of food information have 10,000 words. And this is without annexes, obviously. So I think we need to keep in mind to be efficient and have regulation fit for purpose. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrei. Now, keeping dialogue open and transparent, which is fundamental to us, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Lukasz Kulinski, the Director for Green Energy and Energy System Transition, Green Integration, and Energy System Transition at the European Commission.
Thank you very much for this kind invitation to close your conference today. I think that you have touched upon many topics that are extremely important for our European electricity market, and that's why my team, myself, we have been listening very carefully. Now, I'm also honored to be here, and it's my first time, although there has been already a tradition of the director from DG Energy participating in this conference. It's also an honor because obviously NEMOs together with the TSOs play a crucial role in organizing the management of our union's market coupling, as is clearly stated in the European electricity regulation. I mean, it's obvious that we have many reasons to be proud of the European electricity internal market. It's the largest integrated electricity market in the world, and we've been saying this both in the EU and outside, and I don't think anyone is anywhere close. It also gives us the economic benefits that are huge compared to a system of national electricity systems working individually. It supports affordability, and as you know, this is a key objective for the Commission: affordability of energy, affordability of electricity, as the system selects the cheapest production and smooths out the price spikes. And it also, this integrated market supports the security of supply, and we are not forgetting about it, as was also mentioned earlier here, as it allows the member states to rely on flows from its neighbors. And finally, obviously, it helps deliver on decarbonized electricity across the EU. And while we can be proud, obviously, we see a number of major shifts, major changes that are ongoing, to which the electricity market needs to adapt. The first one I would mention is obviously the energy transition and the record volumes of renewables that come online year on year. I don't recall since when that started, but basically I think over the last 2 years, we added 100% of wind and solar that we had before. So the speed is gaining momentum, and that obviously impacts the market coupling in several ways. We have heard that trading is moving closer to real time to accommodate for the variability, intermittency of renewables. The market time unit is becoming more granular. More complex products are introduced, for example, to reflect the reality of storage of batteries. And then smaller players are joining the market to provide the much needed flexibility also at a decentralized level. And the second major change that I would like to mention is what was also referred to in the previous discussions, the upcoming enlargement of the market coupling to energy community contracting parties. And in spite of some challenges and delays in the implementation of the rules, I am very hopeful that the energy community contracting parties will soon deliver progress on this crucial step so that the actual operational integration to the EU's market coupling will start. The integration of these countries to the Union's market coupling is absolutely the unique opportunity for us, for the EU, and for the region. And obviously, the market coupling, as we know, is not static. It's evolving to accommodate to these ongoing and future changes. And these changes, we do fully realize, they bring opportunities, but also constitute a challenge for the operations. And probably the market coupling operations won't be any easier in the future, also given a complex geopolitical context. The current framework for the organization of the market coupling is already quite a few years old and shows quite a few strains and shortcomings, which in our opinion affect a speedy evolution of the market coupling. And even the Draghi report recommended streamlining of governance for the market coupling as, and let me quote, "This not only limits the speed at which the necessary changes to this algorithm can be made, but also makes appropriate regulatory oversight over such a key function very difficult in practice." And this is, as you all know, we embark on the process leading to an improvement of the governance framework for market coupling development and operations to ensure both the safe operation of the market, and let me stress that we do have in mind the safe operation of the market. It was stressed in the key takeaways, and the timely delivery on the next steps in the market integration. And these challenges that I mentioned require us to rethink and simplify the current governance to ensure an adequate decision-making process, avoid unnecessary duplication of tasks, and finally promote a more agile organization. As you know, this process of revision has taken quite some time by now, also to allow for public consultations and bilateral exchanges of views, and it has not finished yet. Where are we with this? Where are we with the CACM revision? We have followed up on the request from the co-legislators in the electricity in the EMD reform to revise the rules, including as concerns, and I quote, "the governance options." And the Commission is currently discussing the draft with the Member States based on the proposal aligned with the recommendations from the regulators. And once this stage is completed, the adopted draft will be published for feedback and only then adopted. And we have so far listened to pretty carefully, I would say, to stakeholders' opinions, and we will continue to do it Even though obviously the solutions, there are different points of view, the solutions, we need to look for the best way forward to deliver on the revised rules for CACM. And as I mentioned, there will still be an opportunity to exchange views. Since the market coupling rules should not change too often in order to give you, the market participants, clarity and predictability, I think it's important that we keep in mind that we are today building a framework for tomorrow and a day after tomorrow. And it's crucial that we adopt a forward-looking approach that will make it future-proof in a challenging context. And obviously, NEMO's contribution to the market coupling is strongly appreciated by the Commission. NEMOs are and will remain an essential pillar in the Union's market coupling, and you have our full cooperation on all issues related to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kulinski. I would like to thank our speakers and also our audience for joining us here today and turning this event into an opportunity for mutual learning. We will upload the video on our website. You can check our conference information page in a couple of days. And of course, we look forward to meeting you again next year. Thank you. Starting soon.